Hi, I'm Jimmy Colefax, and this is The Story. Today, our guest once again is author Cecily Paterson from Sydney. Today, we're focusing on her book, Love, Tears and Autism, an Australian mother's journey from heartache to hope. Now, here's more of Eric Scatterbo's conversation with Cecily, who's been giving us insights into what it's like being a parent of a child diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder.
So what would be an example of a success story for him?
Well, going to school, okay? Going to school is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was 5.5, he should have started kindergarten. Well, there was no way in the world he was ready to start kindergarten, so I looked up the rules and I found out that you don't have to start kindergarten before you're 6 years old. So I thought, right, well, he can just not go for those 2 terms.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to a very small town in which the school was right opposite the house, and I thought, well, that's actually really good. Because if we had to leave the house and go in the car and walk and go through the gates of the school and get into the classroom, those would be too many steps. At least we can go out of our gate, cross the road, we're in the school. That's a good start, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to the principal and I said, here's this child, he melts down at every possibility. What are you going to do, or what can you offer me? And he said, well, he was really wonderful, actually, this guy. They'd had a fair bit of experience with children with severe disabilities in this school, and they were very open.
Mm-hmm.
So he said to me, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like him to go to school for 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, and then see what happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay. So what we did was I didn't make him wear a uniform. If he couldn't wear the uniform that day, or if he couldn't wear his shoes that day, that was fine. The most important thing was we left the house, we crossed the road, we went into the classroom. So those are the things that, they were non-negotiables. Everything else around that had to be let go because sometimes it was impossible. So many times, there was a lolly shop next door to our house. Many times I would say, right, it's time to go to school, but first we'll go to the lolly shop. Now, he coped with lolly shop because everybody likes lollies. So we went to the lolly shop, we bought the lolly, yes. Then he'd say, let's have the lolly. I'd say, what we'll do first is we'll cross the road and then we'll have the lolly. So we would cross the road and then we would have the lolly. Well, he could now cross the road, hooray.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would get in the gate and then we would get to the classroom and then he could have the lolly. So it was a matter many times of just doing that kind of thing. And I can't tell you how many times I sat on the steps of our house waiting for him to get through his meltdown about having to leave the house. So all of that took a lot of emotional effort.
Mm.
And what he did was he got to school, and then sometimes it was quite enjoyable for him. And so he saw these other kids all coming to school, but he saw himself getting picked up, and he's like, well, why am I getting picked up? I said, well, 2 hours is maybe enough for you. He's like, no, I can do more. I can go till lunch. And so he would go till lunch. And so when the pressure was lifted, he was able to want to do things himself and find the impetus himself to do things. And we found this all the way along. Oh, by the way, it took 2 terms to get from 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, to all day, 5 days a week.
Oh, okay.
So
but he
by
got
the
there.
end of I think it was the last 2 weeks of that kindergarten year, he was going all day.
But nonetheless, he got there. It's a success story.
That's right. It's a success story. So it takes a lot longer, and you do it in more steps. But we ended up succeeding. And he's now 16. It's been that way all the way along. Every time we've forced something or tried to make it happen, basically he's been so worried about the being forced that he's fought back and then not been able to do anything. But every time we've taken the pressure off and taken it in steps, he's actually come along and gone, well, who's to say I couldn't go to the beach, for example? Or who's to say I couldn't enjoy Christmas? The breaking down has built confidence. It has built competence. And now he goes year 11 on his own. He wants to go. He's doing his own homework. Like, he's a success in life in many, many ways.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to you personally, because it wasn't so successful initially for you.
It's living horrible.
Yeah, what happened to you?
Look, it was really hard because I was trying to manage 3 children. My husband had this new ministry job. He was pretty busy, and it was intense, and it was his first ministry job.
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard. And I basically had to get rid of everything else that was extraneous in my life and go, okay, well, this is what I'm doing now. I'm looking after a kid who melts down 6 times a day and trying to figure that out. So all my energy went into that. But, it was harder than I thought, and I got depression. I took tablets for a period. When we moved to the small town where the school was, I did start to get better, and things improved. But every time you have a loss, and I would call having a child with a disability, it has its losses built into that, because everyone has their dreams for their child, and when your child doesn't achieve, X, Y, Z, at the same time as every other child achieves X, Y, Z, you feel like, oh, wow, that's a loss. And so the losses pop up, throughout life and throughout the years, and you have a little cry about that and say, wow, this is still really hard, even though he's doing so well and even though he has friends or people like him, he still didn't get to that point as quick as everyone else. And I think what we've found is we've only ever been able to look 6 months ahead for him. Like my other son, who's neurotypical, he's got lots of talent, like my autistic son does, he has lots of talent. But my other son, he has a big plan for his life, and you look with him and go, yeah, I can see what you're going to be doing in 5 years. I can see in 10 years you might be doing this and that. With our son with autism, I go, okay, in the next 6 months we could probably expect this, possibly. After that, I have no idea. Who knows? That'll be up to him, a lot of it, and it'll be up to where we are together. But we've had to work really hard as a team, him and me and his father, to go, okay, what's the current challenge? Let's see how we can break that down, how we can move through it, what do we want to be doing, how can we build confidence and competence.
So as a parent, as you mentioned, we have expectations. So you had to just throw those expectations out and say, this is going to be something different. Yep,
that's right. And that's really hard to do. And not only that, because everybody else has the other expectations, and they're all going on their normal timeline, and you're going on your changed timeline, and that's really hard.
So it would be very easy to kind of have a pity party and get depressed.
Well, I mean, that only gets you so far, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A pity party, you can get stuck in that.
Yeah.
Or you can go, all right, let's do the work. Let's get as far as we can get and see what happens.
It is what it is. We have to take it from here.
That's right. And I always tell my daughter, do the work. And she's like, Mom, I know. She says if she ever gets a tattoo, it's going to be do the work, because that's what I tell myself, and that's what I tell her, and that's what I tell all of them.
And so you went through a very dark period spiritually, is that right?
Yeah, I did. God is nice, He picks you up and goes, it's all right, I'm still here. But it was pretty hard, that's for sure. I'm not there anymore, so you forget about the hardness of things sometimes. You move on, and it's not hard anymore. But yeah, he kept me when I didn't feel like being kept, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, if somebody's listening today and maybe they have a child with a disability or something that they can relate to from your story, and they're maybe in that dark place now, what advice would you have for them?
Just keep on. Find someone who'll love you and let you cry about it, and not try and tell you that everything's all right, because everything's not all right. That's a fib, and people love to perpetuate that fib. But you're allowed to feel bad because it is bad, and you're allowed to feel hopeless because sometimes you do feel hopeless. But then you think about what we have in life is 80 years or so, and eternity is much bigger, and we're heading there. And if you take an 80-year perspective on what's coming, then you can probably get through it.
So finally, how is he doing today?
He's doing really well. He is a self-motivated young person doing his final years of high school. He has picked his subjects. He does his homework. He has some plans and some hopes, and he knows what he likes and what he doesn't like. He's very interested in physical fitness. He can smash out 10 pull-ups on the pull-up bar, which I can't do.
Yeah.
And he has his likes and dislikes. He has some friends at school, and he's generally a happy, well-adjusted person who's going to do something cool in life.
Fantastic. Wasn't looking that way for a while.
No, it wasn't looking that way for a while. It wasn't. As I said, we can only look 6 months ahead, and 6 months ago I was worried, and 6 months before that I was worried, and 6 months before that I was even more worried. But you can't stay in worry. That's the trouble. You can only go, what is the problem that's presenting itself today, let's work on that one and break it down.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things have a cumulative effect. So you work on helping him to self-regulate when he's 12 and when he's 14 and when he's 16, 17, suddenly, I know how to self-regulate, I can go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things that you've been working on over the years, they add up, they make a difference. One of the biggest things that we did, which has really helped him, was to have a big focus on diet and supplements. So we found this doctor in Sydney who took him off dairy, took him off gluten, took him off soy, took him off preservatives, a whole lot of things, and who put him on things like zinc and SAM-E and fish oils and a whole raft of supplements. And my goodness, do they cost a lot? But wow, do they work.
Wow. Massively.
They have helped him calm down. I think when he was 6, we had him on some really strong medication, which another pediatrician put him on. And that helped because that did calm him down in some situations. But that's really strong medication that I don't want my child to be on for the rest of their life. It's much better to be on fish oil.
Yeah.
So working out all of that, and, it's hard for a kid to have a funny diet, and nobody likes it.
Yeah.
But he understands and he knows how it feels for him when he eats those things which don't do him any good and when he doesn't take his tablets. And I would say she's been really a huge part of our miracle. So if you're interested in learning more about the diet and the supplement side of this sort of therapy, a good place to start is a website called mind.org. It's MINDD.org. And that talks a lot about the effect of different food on brain health and the effect of gut on brain health and thinking and all those sorts of things. So definitely a good place to start.
Any final comments you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Oh, any final comments? Oh, I have so many final comments. I would say keep breaking things down for your children if they're struggling. So my son is now a moderately successful Year 11 student, which means in my eyes he is like the bomb. He is the ace of all Year 11 students because he has struggled to get this far, and he'll continue to struggle, but he can do it if you're with him and if you do the teamwork that's required. Don't give up.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
That's all right. It's a pleasure.
That was Eric Scatterbo chatting with author Cecily Paterson from Sydney. And as we heard, today's conversation focused on her book, Love, Tears and Autism. To find out more about this book and others by Cecily, you can visit her website, cecilypaterson.com. That's cecilypaterson.com. Also, if you can identify with some of the struggles that Cecily has gone through as a parent of a child with a disability and would like someone to pray with and be encouraged with, our prayer line is 1-800-PRAY for me. That's 1-800-772-936. We'd love to pray with you on that number, 1-800-772-936. Finally, we'll end with some words of encouragement from the Bible. In the book of Isaiah, where God tells us, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you with my righteous right hand." That's right, no matter what we're going through or how difficult the journey, God is always there to rely on and to uphold us through it all. Well, thanks for joining us for part 2 of Cecily Paterson's story. I'm Jimmy Colefax, encouraging you to share your story with someone today.
Next time on The Story.
Byron had been unwell for a little while and so had been through a series of checkups and that sort of thing. And the specialist diagnosed Byron within minutes really and said, "You've got a cancer that is growing in your throat." And from there we found out that it was stage 4, inoperable. And so the journey began.
Pastors Byron and Anne Graham have gone through their share of health challenges in life. As a matter of fact, they got the bad news that Anne's mother was diagnosed with cancer. At the same time, Byron was in the hospital being treated for cancer. We'll hear their story next time.
The Story. Just another way Vision is connecting faith to life.